That FBI Director Kash Patel may be out of a job in the coming months. 3 people with knowledge of the situation say President Trump and his top aides have grown tired of Patel and the unflattering headlines he's been generating recently, including using a government jet to visit his girlfriend and enlisting a SWAT team as her security detail.
4:17 a.m., Minneapolis, Minnesota. The city slept under a blanket of February cold. Ice-covered Lake Minnetonka. Streetlights cast long shadows across empty roads. Nothing suggested what was about to unfold. Federal agents had been watching for 19 months. ICE, DEA, FBI, Treasury Department, over 240 agents coordinating across 8 states. Tonight, they would execute the largest corruption raid in Minnesota history. The target, a sitting judge, Judge Mahad, Immigration Court, federal appointment, respected community leader. Behind closed doors, she ran something else entirely. A pipeline moving billions in stolen assets, narcotics, and human cargo through America's immigration system. What agents found would expose corruption reaching the highest levels of government. If you want the full truth, hit like so this story reaches more people. The investigation began with a wire transfer flagged in September 2024. Treasury analysts noticed something unusual. $6.3 million moving from a Minnesota-based refugee resettlement agency to an offshore account in Dubai. The agency was called New Horizons Community Services. On paper, they provided housing assistance, job training, and legal services for refugees. Federal funding, state grants, private donations, but the Dubai account belonged to Al Kareem Logistics, a shell company with no employees, no physical address, no legitimate business operations. Federal analysts traced the money backward. Through banks in Miami, cryptocurrency exchanges in Singapore, shell corporations in Wyoming and Delaware. Every trail led to the same place. Judge Mahad's courtroom. The scale was staggering. $11.7 billion potentially laundered through immigration fraud networks since 2019. Not millions, billions. Pandemic relief funds, refugee assistance programs, federal grants for community services, all diverted through elaborate schemes involving fake organizations, phantom applicants, and fraudulent documentation. But investigators discovered something darker. The fraud wasn't just theft. It was infrastructure. Money stolen from American taxpayers, laundered through international channels, used to finance narcotics trafficking and human smuggling operations controlled by cartels operating inside refugee communities. This wasn't immigration fraud. This was organized crime wearing the mask of humanitarian work. Comment exposed if you're ready to see how deep this goes. Federal agents established a covert surveillance operation in March 2025. A command post in downtown Minneapolis. 23 analysts working 16-hour shifts. They monitored bank accounts, tracked cryptocurrency wallets, intercepted encrypted communications. Judge Mahad appeared in 284 separate financial transactions. Wire transfers totaling $127.6 million over 14 months. Money moving through her network like water through pipes. She owned properties across Minnesota, Florida, Texas, and Arizona. Investment accounts, offshore holdings, luxury vehicles registered under family members' names. On paper, everything looked legitimate. Tax returns filed, judicial ethics disclosures current, community awards displayed in her chambers. But federal wiretaps told a different story. In one recorded conversation from June 2025, Mahad discussed case approvals and payment schedules. She referenced cartel connections and protection guarantees. Analysts cross-referenced those calls with DEA intelligence databases. The connections emerged like a spiderweb. Mahad had been communicating with individuals identified by federal authorities as high-level operatives for the Sinaloa cartel. The organization controlled drug trafficking routes through Mexico, California, and the southwest United States. Billions in annual revenue, protected by corruption at every level. And according to federal evidence, Minnesota's immigration fraud money was being exchanged for cartel protection. Drug profits laundered back into the United States through sophisticated cryptocurrency channels. The marriage of judicial corruption and narcotics trafficking. If this shocks you, hit like now. The order came at 4:02 a.m. on February 11, 2026. Execute warrants simultaneously across 19 locations: Minnesota, Florida, Texas, Arizona, California. Judge Mahad's residence in Edina was the primary target. But agents also hit properties in Minneapolis, a warehouse in South Street, Hull, offices in Phoenix, luxury condos in Miami Beach. Zero media notification. Total operational silence. At 4:17 a.m., armored vehicles rolled down Mahad's quiet residential street. Neighbors slept behind curtained windows. Nobody saw the convoy approach. Agents moved through pre-dawn darkness. Tactical gear, night vision, K9 units. The battering ram struck the reinforced front door at 4:19 a.m. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. Alarms screamed through the neighborhood. Judge Mahad was in her study when agents entered. Seated at her desk, documents spread before her, calm, almost expecting them. Her hands went up without resistance. "I want my attorney," were her only words. Her husband and 2 teenage children were escorted to separate rooms. No charges against family members. But federal agents needed to secure the property. What they found inside turned the investigation into a national scandal. The basement had been converted into something resembling a command center. Reinforced walls, biometric locks, climate-controlled storage. Inside, agents discovered $68.4 million in cash, stacked in vacuum-sealed bundles. Denominations ranging from $20 bills to hundreds. Federal agents counted for 9 hours. But cash was just the beginning. Type yes to see what else agents discovered. The basement contained documents spanning 4 years. Ledgers written in coded language. IC for immigration cases. CP for cartel payments. Florida for Florida routes. Bank statements from 47 different accounts. Offshore holdings in Cayman Islands, Panama, Dubai, Singapore. Cryptocurrency wallet access codes. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, Tether. Balances totaling $214.7 million across digital platforms. Physical evidence linking Mahad directly to cartel operatives. Photographs showing Mahad meeting with individuals later identified as Sinaloa cartel members. Locations included Guadalajara, San Diego, and Phoenix. Encrypted phones. 6 Samsung devices configured with military-grade security software. Messages between Mahad and contacts saved under code names. Phoenix link. Miami channel. Border clear. One message from December 2025 read, 17 cases approved Friday. Payment confirmed through usual channels. Next shipment cleared for Tuesday routes. Federal forensic analysts worked for days to decrypt the phones. What they uncovered was a system operating for years under federal radar. Immigration fraud organizations would submit fake asylum applications. Phantom refugees. Fabricated persecution stories. Forged documentation. The applications would land in Judge Mahad's courtroom. She approved them. No questions. No investigations. No scrutiny. Fake refugees received legal status. Work permits. Social security numbers. Access to federal benefits. But these weren't refugees. They were cartel operatives. Drug traffickers. Money launderers. Human smugglers. Mahad's approvals gave them legal cover to operate inside the United States. In exchange, she received payments. Cash delivered to her properties. Cryptocurrency transferred to her wallets. Assets purchased under shell company names. The fraud organizations also stole money from federal assistance programs. Refugee resettlement grants, housing vouchers, medical services, job training funds. That money moved through New Horizons Community Services and similar organizations. Small transactions to avoid federal reporting thresholds. Aggregated into larger sums. Then wired to offshore accounts controlled by shell corporations. The shell corporations would purchase luxury goods, real estate, vehicles, jewelry, assets resold at inflated prices. The difference laundered back through cryptocurrency. A perfect cycle. Fake refugees approved. Federal funds stolen. Money laundered. Cartels protected. Billions moving through the system annually. Share this so more people understand the scale. Simultaneously, federal agents raided the warehouse on Robert Street in South Street, Hull. The building was registered as a storage facility for New Horizons Community Services. Listed purpose: donated goods for refugee families. But inside, agents found something else entirely. Evidence of a parallel trafficking operation. Shipping manifests showing containers moving through Port of Los Angeles, Port of Houston, and Port of Miami. Listed cargo: household goods, donated clothing, furniture. But federal interdiction records told a different story. 5 containers linked to New Horizons had been flagged at Port of Houston in 2024 and 2025. Inspections revealed 673 kilograms of fentanyl hidden in furniture compartments. The drugs were seized, but the investigation stalled. No arrests made at the time. Now federal agents understood why. Documents in the warehouse showed payments to port officials, customs inspectors, logistics coordinators, each receiving between $50,000 and $250,000 per shipment that cleared without inspection. This wasn't random smuggling. This was systematic corruption enabling narcotics trafficking through American ports. The warehouse also contained financial records showing payments to individuals in California, Texas, Arizona, and Florida. All connected to immigration services organizations. All receiving federal grants. All involved in fraud schemes. Federal prosecutors would later describe it as the most sophisticated corruption network ever documented, connecting judicial authority to international drug trafficking. The network spanned 11 states, connected over 340 individuals, moved an estimated $5.8 billion through the system between 2021 and 2026. And at the center sat Judge Mahad, the woman federal prosecutors now called the Gateway. Comment your reaction to what you're seeing. As federal agents executed warrants across multiple states, Minneapolis erupted. Cedar Riverside, the heart of Minnesota's Somali community. Over 2,400 people gathered outside the Brian Coyle Center by 9 a.m. Community leaders condemned the raids, called them racist targeting, demanded transparency. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar released a statement within 2 hours. Federal overreach cannot be justified by isolated incidents of fraud. Our immigrant communities are not criminal enterprises. This raid represents a pattern of discrimination that must be challenged. But federal prosecutors pushed back with evidence. At a press conference on February 12, 2026, U.S. Attorney Andrew Lugar presented findings. Charts showing money flows, photographs of evidence, timelines spanning years. This investigation is about following money stolen from American taxpayers, Lugar stated. It led us to drug cartels, to human trafficking networks, to systematic corruption of our immigration system. He confirmed 63 arrests across 11 states. Assets seized totaling $2.47 billion. Cash, properties, vehicles, cryptocurrency, frozen accounts. The numbers silenced some critics. But tensions remained high. Protests continued for days. Federal buildings surrounded by demonstrators. Chants echoing through downtown Minneapolis. Justice for our community. End the targeting. No more raids. The complexity defied simple narratives. Yes, fraud occurred. Yes, money was stolen. Yes, connections to drug trafficking were real. But enforcement also swept up innocent people. Created fear in vulnerable communities. Raised questions about proportionality. How do you balance justice with compassion? Enforcement with humanity. Accountability with understanding. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Federal investigators traced the cartel connection to its source. Emails between Judge Mahad and individuals identified as Sinaloa cartel operatives. One contact. Miguel Angel Felix, a cartel lieutenant sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury in 2022 for drug trafficking activities. Messages showed Felix coordinating drug shipments, providing protection for money transfers, ensuring safe passage for operatives through immigration channels. Another contact. Sofia Quintero, former Mexican customs official, indicted by U.S. prosecutors in 2020 for facilitating cocaine trafficking. Quintero appeared in photographs with Mahad. Meetings in San Diego 2023, Phoenix 2024, Guadalajara 2025. Federal analysts confirmed Quintero facilitated banking relationships, allowed Mahad's money to move through Latin American financial networks without detection. The Sinaloa cartel denied all allegations through intermediaries, called the charges American propaganda, claimed fabricated evidence. But federal authorities had more than allegations. They had recordings, wiretapped conversations between Mahad and cartel representatives discussing specific cases, payment amounts, delivery schedules, In one conversation from October 2025, Mahad discussed approving 14 asylum applications on a specific date. "The 14 we discussed are scheduled for Friday hearings," she said. "Payment should clear before Thursday midnight." A male voice responded, "Confirmed. Miami route is prepared for next week's shipment." Federal analysts matched that conversation to court records. 14 asylum cases approved by Judge Mahad on October 18, 2025. All 14 applicants claimed persecution from rival gangs in Central America. All 14 applications contained nearly identical stories. Same persecution narrative, same flight details, same supporting witnesses. Federal investigators later determined all 14 applicants were Sinaloa cartel operatives. Background checks revealed criminal records in Mexico. Arrest warrants, known gang affiliations, information that should have disqualified their applications immediately. But Judge Mahad approved them anyway. She granted legal status to known cartel members. If you believe justice matters, comment justice below. The raids revealed human costs hidden beneath financial statistics. $11.7 billion stolen from programs designed to help vulnerable populations. Money meant to house refugees, provide medical care, offer job training, feed children. Instead, that money financed drug trafficking, enabled corruption, enriched criminals while communities suffered. Federal prosecutors presented victim impact statements. Legitimate refugee families denied assistance because funds ran out. Organizations forced to close programs due to budget shortfalls. Communities watching as fraud destroyed institutions they trusted. One Somali family testified they waited 17 months for asylum approval. Their application was legitimate. They fled violence in Mogadishu. Had documentation, had witnesses, but their case kept getting delayed. While fraudulent applications moved through quickly, the father eventually gave up, returned to Somalia despite danger, said the system was broken. Meanwhile, cartel operatives with fake stories received approval in weeks. The betrayal cut deep. Judge Mahad had been a symbol of representation. First Somali American female judge appointed to immigration court. Celebrated as a role model. Praised for cultural sensitivity. Federal prosecutors revealed those accomplishments masked criminal enterprise. Community investment is cover for corruption. Representation is shield for exploitation. When trusted leaders betray public trust, how do communities recover? When systems designed to protect instead enable harm, who remains accountable? Federal officials promised reforms. Enhanced oversight for immigration courts. Stricter monitoring of refugee assistance organizations. Improved coordination between agencies. But reforms move slowly. Criminals adapt quickly. Share this video before the story disappears. Judge Mahad's trial was scheduled for August 2026. She faced charges including racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy to distribute narcotics, immigration fraud, and bribery of a public official. Federal prosecutors were seeking 45 years imprisonment plus forfeiture of all seized assets. Her defense attorneys argued entrapment, claimed federal agents manufactured evidence, insisted Mahad was being scapegoated to justify aggressive enforcement against immigrant communities. The legal battle would determine not just Mahad's fate but set precedents for how federal authorities prosecute judicial corruption. Meanwhile, the broader investigation continued. Federal agents identified 237 additional suspects. Expected 94 more arrests within 4 months. Anticipated asset seizures exceeding $3.1 billion. The Minneapolis operation was a hub, but federal officials believed similar networks operated in other cities. Seattle, Columbus, Portland, San Diego, cities with large immigrant populations and federal assistance programs vulnerable to fraud. Department of Homeland Security announced enhanced scrutiny of immigration court decisions nationwide. New review protocols, increased audits, penalties for approval patterns suggesting corruption. The crackdown sent shockwaves through the immigration court system. Judges complained about increased workload. Advocacy groups warned of delays for legitimate cases. Communities feared increased denials affecting vulnerable populations. The balance between enforcement and access remained delicate. Federal officials acknowledged challenges but insisted accountability was necessary. We cannot allow corruption to undermine the immigration system, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem stated. Legitimate refugees deserve a fair process. That requires removing corrupt actors. Type your thoughts below if you're still paying attention. Federal officials estimated recovering $2.47 billion represented approximately 21% of total stolen wealth. The remaining 79% remained hidden. Offshore accounts in jurisdictions incooperative with U.S. law enforcement. Cryptocurrency wallets with untraceable transactions. Assets held under names not yet identified. Recovering stolen money takes years. International cooperation. Legal battles across multiple countries. Many victims would never see restitution. Minnesota's refugee assistance programs faced funding crises. Billions stolen created budget shortfalls. Services reduced. Waiting lists lengthened. Legitimate refugee families suffered consequences of fraud committed by others. Federal emergency funding was approved by Congress. $1.8 billion allocated to restore programs. But political battles over. Appropriations delayed distribution. Communities bore the cost while bureaucrats argued. The children who didn't receive housing assistance because funding disappeared. The families denied medical care while money flowed offshore. The legitimate refugees whose cases were delayed while fraudulent applications moved quickly. They were the true victims. And their losses couldn't be measured in dollars alone. Federal agents continued following leads. Financial trails extended into Europe, Asia, Middle East. Money laundering networks operated globally. What happened in Minneapolis represented one node in a vast system. Dismantling that system required international cooperation, enhanced intelligence sharing, political will to prioritize white-collar crime enforcement. But resources remained limited, priorities shifted, public attention faded. The fight required sustained pressure. Comment accountability if you're still paying attention. Judge Mahad's Edina residence remains sealed by federal marshals. A symbol of stolen wealth displayed as respectability overlooking Minnesota's pristine neighborhoods. Inside that residence, $68.4 million in cash. Cryptocurrency wallets worth $214.7 million. Evidence of systematic corruption spanning years. Outside, a community grappling with betrayal. Trust shattered. Institutions questioned. Enforcement criticized. The complexity resisted simple solutions. Yes, fraud occurred. Yes, money was stolen. Yes, connections to drug trafficking were real. But enforcement also created fear. Swept up innocent people. Raised questions about targeting. How do societies balance justice and compassion? Enforcement and humanity. Accountability and understanding. Those questions didn't have easy answers. What remained clear? Systems failed. Oversight was inadequate. Criminals exploited vulnerabilities for years while authorities failed to detect patterns until billions disappeared. The Minnesota scandal exposed those failures. Forced accountability. Demanded reforms. Whether those reforms actually materialized remained uncertain. Whether systems improved or simply adapted to avoid scrutiny depended on sustained attention. And that depended on people like you refusing to look away. Subscribe to this channel for continued coverage. Share this story so others understand what happened. Comment your thoughts below. Judge Layla Mahad sat in federal detention awaiting trial. Her assets frozen. Her reputation destroyed. Her future uncertain. The 237 additional suspects identified by federal investigators continued their lives. Some aware they were under surveillance. Others oblivious to coming arrests. The money still hidden offshore represented billions in stolen wealth. American taxpayer money. Refugee assistance funds. Resources meant for vulnerable populations. Criminals enjoying luxury while communities suffered. Federal agents worked to trace remaining assets. But the task was enormous. The networks sophisticated. The jurisdictions incooperative. Justice moved slowly. Criminals adapted quickly. The fight continued. But it required awareness. Demand for accountability. Refusal to accept corruption as inevitable. Your engagement matters. Every like signals algorithms to spread this story. Every comment shows people care. Every share reaches someone who needs to know. Hit like right now. Comment justice if you believe accountability matters. Share this widely. Because this wasn't just about Minneapolis. It was about systems vulnerable to exploitation everywhere. It was about criminals who believed they were above consequences. Officials who failed in oversight responsibilities. Communities left to suffer the fallout. The judicial corruption made headlines. Judge Mahad's arrest dominated news cycles. But the deeper story remained. How immigration fraud schemes connect to international drug trafficking. How money stolen in America finances cartels abroad. How corruption spans borders and institutions. That story deserved attention, demanded accountability, required action. The investigation uncovered layers most Americans never knew existed. The fake refugee pipeline operated with precision. Cartel operatives would create false identities, fabricate persecution stories, forge documentation from countries in crisis. They targeted countries with difficult-to-verify records. Somalia, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen. Countries where civil war, government collapse, or political instability made background checks nearly impossible. The applications would include elaborate stories, detailed persecution narratives, named persecutors, specific incidents of violence, all fiction, carefully crafted fiction. Supporting documents appeared authentic. Government letterheads, official stamps, witness statements, all forgeries, created by document mills operating in Mexico, Central America, and East Africa. The applications would be filed through immigration attorneys. Some legitimate lawyers unknowingly deceived, others complicit in the fraud. The cases would land in Judge Mahad's courtroom. She would review the applications, schedule hearings, interview applicants, and approve them, regardless of red flags, regardless of inconsistencies, regardless of obvious fabrications. Federal investigators found patterns that should have triggered oversight. Mahad's approval rate, 94.7%. National average for immigration judges, 43.6%. She approved applications other judges would have denied immediately. Cases with identical stories, same witnesses, same persecution narratives, different applicants. Applications from individuals with criminal records, gang affiliations, prior deportations. She approved them anyway. If this shocks you, comment your reaction below. The approved applicants received documentation allowing legal residence in the United States. Work permits issued within weeks. Social security numbers assigned. Access to federal benefits granted. The operatives would disappear into communities. Establish cover identities. Begin cartel operations. Some worked as drug transporters, moving fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine from border regions to distribution hubs across the country. Others operated as money launderers, establishing businesses that processed drug profits. Car washes, restaurants, import-export companies. Some facilitated human smuggling, coordinating routes, bribing border officials, transporting migrants for cartel profit. The network was vast. Federal investigators identified over 840 individuals who received fraudulent asylum approval through Mahad's courtroom between 2019 and 2025. Of those, 312 had been arrested on drug trafficking charges. 127 were linked to human smuggling operations. 89 were connected to violent crimes including murder, assault, and kidnapping. The remaining 312 remained at large. Unknown locations, assumed identities, continued operations. Judge Mahad's corruption had seeded communities across America with cartel operatives. The scope was staggering, the danger ongoing. Federal authorities launched a nationwide manhunt. ICE agents coordinating with DEA. FBI task forces mobilized. Local law enforcement briefed on suspects. By late February 2026, 67 additional arrests had been made. But hundreds remained free, operating in shadows, protected by false identities, enabled by judicial corruption. Share this so more communities understand the threat. The financial mechanisms were equally sophisticated. Money from drug sales needed laundering. Cash needed conversion into assets that appeared legitimate. The cartel used multiple methods. Trade-based money laundering, importing goods from Mexico at inflated prices. The difference between declared value and actual value represented laundered drug profits. Cryptocurrency exchanges, converting cash to Bitcoin through peer-to-peer networks. Transferring across international borders, converting back to cash in destination countries. Real estate purchases, buying properties through shell companies. Holding for months, selling at inflated prices. Profits appeared as legitimate capital gains. Cash businesses, car washes, restaurants, laundromats. Mixing drug cash with legitimate revenue. Reporting inflated earnings. Paying taxes on laundered money to create appearance of legitimacy. Judge Mahad facilitated all of it. Her approvals created legal identities for operatives who could open bank accounts, register businesses, sign contracts. Her connections provided access to corrupt officials at multiple levels. Port inspectors who ignored shipping containers, bank managers who overlooked suspicious transactions, real estate agents who processed purchases without questioning sources of funds. The network functioned because corruption existed at every level. Not just one judge, not just one cartel, a system of compromised officials enabling criminal enterprise. Federal prosecutors estimated the network processed $5.8 billion between 2021 and 2025. Of that, approximately $2.3 billion came from drug trafficking. $3.5 billion came from immigration fraud schemes stealing federal assistance funds. The two revenue streams merged in offshore accounts. Drug money and stolen taxpayer funds blended together, laundered through the same channels, enriching the same criminals. Type yes if you're seeing how everything connects. The human smuggling operations represented another revenue stream. Thousands of migrants attempting to enter the United States illegally each month. Desperate people fleeing violence, seeking opportunity, willing to pay thousands for passage. The cartels controlled the routes. They charged migrants between $8,000 and $15,000 per person to guide them across borders. But the service came with conditions. Migrants often forced to carry drug loads. Transport packages across borders as condition of passage. Women and girls subjected to sexual exploitation. Forced into prostitution to pay off smuggling debts. Men coerced into drug trafficking operations. Threatened with violence against families if they refused. The humanitarian crisis became criminal enterprise. Judge Mahad's network facilitated it. Once migrants entered the country, operatives with fraudulent asylum approval would help them establish false identities. Fake social security numbers, forged employment documents, fraudulent addresses. The migrants would then be exploited for labor, working in cartel-controlled businesses, paying inflated rent to cartel-owned properties, trapped in cycles of debt and exploitation. Federal investigators documented hundreds of cases. Migrants promised legal work and safe housing, instead trafficked into criminal operations. Women promised childcare jobs, instead forced into brothels. Men promised construction work, instead coerced into drug transportation. The betrayal was systematic, the exploitation endless, the profits substantial. Federal prosecutors estimated human smuggling and trafficking operations connected to Mahad's network generated over $870 million between 2021 and 2025. Nearly $1 billion in profit from human misery. If you believe these victims deserve justice, comment justice below. The investigation uncovered additional layers of corruption. State legislators who received campaign contributions from organizations later identified as fronts for money laundering. County officials who approved zoning changes for properties used in trafficking operations. Police officers who ignored complaints about suspicious activities at cartel-controlled locations. The corruption didn't exist in isolation. It required enablers at multiple levels. Federal prosecutors filed charges against 17 public officials, 3 Minnesota state legislators, 5 county administrators, 9 police officers across 4 jurisdictions, all accused of accepting bribes, facilitating criminal operations, obstructing investigations. The charges sent shockwaves through state government. Public trust in institutions collapsed further. If corruption reached state legislators, who could be trusted? If police officers enabled trafficking, who would protect communities? The questions haunted Minnesota politics. Governor Tim Walz called for a comprehensive corruption task force, enhanced screening for public officials, stricter financial disclosure requirements, independent oversight of law enforcement. But political opposition slowed implementation. Some legislators called the proposals overreach, warned of reduced recruitment for public service, argued for balancing accountability with practicality. The debate continued while investigations expanded. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. By March 2026, federal authorities had seized additional assets. 17 luxury properties across 8 states. Combined value, $47.3 million. 31 vehicles including luxury cars, SUVs, and motorcycles. Combined value, $6.8 million. Jewelry and artwork worth $11.2 million. Additional cryptocurrency accounts worth $89.7 million. Total seizures reached $3.04 billion. But federal officials acknowledged this represented only a fraction of stolen wealth. Complex international networks made asset recovery extremely difficult. Money hidden in jurisdictions with strong banking secrecy laws. Cryptocurrency transferred through mixing services that obscured transaction trails. Assets held under names not yet identified by investigators. Recovering remaining stolen funds could take decades. International cooperation required negotiations with foreign governments. Some cooperative, others resistant. Countries like Switzerland and Singapore generally assisted U.S. investigations. But others like Panama and certain Caribbean nations provided limited help. Banking secrecy laws prioritized client privacy over international enforcement cooperation. Federal prosecutors filed asset forfeiture cases in multiple countries. Legal battles that would continue for years. Uncertain outcomes. Expensive litigation. Lengthy proceedings. Many victims would never see restitution. The reality of international financial crime. Share this video so more people understand what we're facing. The trial of Judge Mahad approached. Federal prosecutors prepared their case. Over 47,000 pages of documentary evidence. Testimony from 63 cooperating witnesses. Recorded conversations. Encrypted message transcripts. Bank records. The case was overwhelming. Mahad's defense team prepared counter-arguments. Claimed selective prosecution targeting a prominent Muslim woman. Argued evidence was circumstantial and misinterpreted. Insisted Mahad acted in good faith based on information available. Portrayed her as a scapegoat for systemic failures in immigration oversight. The defense strategy focused on creating reasonable doubt. Questioning witness credibility. Challenging evidence collection methods. Highlighting procedural irregularities. Legal experts predicted a lengthy trial, possibly 6 months. Complex financial testimony. International witnesses. The outcome would shape future prosecutions. If federal prosecutors secured conviction, it would validate aggressive tactics against judicial corruption. If Mahad was acquitted, it would embolden criminals and cast doubt on evidence-gathering methods. The stakes extended beyond one individual. They involved the credibility of federal law enforcement, the integrity of the immigration system, the trust communities placed in institutions. Comment your prediction for the trial outcome. As investigations continued, new connections emerged. Links between Minnesota networks and operations in other states. A Seattle immigration attorney flagged for suspicious case approvals. An Ohio refugee resettlement organization with questionable financial transactions. A California money services business processing unusually large transfers. Federal task forces deployed to investigate. The patterns resembled Minnesota operations. Fraud organizations stealing federal funds. Money laundering through multiple layers. Connections to drug trafficking networks. The investigations were just beginning. But early evidence suggested the problem was national. Not isolated to Minnesota. Not limited to one judge. A systemic vulnerability in immigration and refugee assistance programs. Criminals had identified weaknesses, exploited them for years, generated billions in illegal profits. Federal authorities faced a massive challenge. Rooting out corruption across multiple jurisdictions. Dismantling networks operating for years. Recovering billions in stolen assets. The task would require years of work. Thousands of investigative hours. International cooperation. Political will to sustain enforcement efforts. Whether that commitment existed remained uncertain. Share this story before it gets buried. The human cost continued mounting. Families destroyed by addiction. Communities ravaged by drug trafficking enabled by Mahad's corruption. Over 1,200 overdose deaths in Minnesota between 2021 and 2025 linked to fentanyl traced to cartel networks operating through the state. Each death represented a life lost. A family shattered. A community grieving. Federal prosecutors would argue Judge Mahad bore responsibility. Her corruption enabled the trafficking. Her approvals granted legal status to operatives. Her actions facilitated the distribution networks. Without her cooperation, the operations couldn't have functioned. The legal argument was clear. Mahad wasn't just guilty of financial crimes. She was complicit in deaths. If convicted on all charges, she faced 45 years in federal prison. No parole, no early release. She would likely die in custody. The severity reflected the seriousness of crimes. Judicial corruption represented the ultimate betrayal. Judges sworn to uphold law instead facilitating criminal enterprise. Authority granted by public trust exploited for private gain. The damage extended far beyond financial losses. It undermined confidence in the entire justice system. If judges couldn't be trusted, what institutions remained reliable? If the guardians of law were criminals, where could citizens turn? These questions haunted communities affected by the scandal. The answers required more than prosecutions. They demanded systemic reforms, cultural change within institutions, accountability mechanisms that actually functioned. Whether such changes would occur remained the ultimate question. Hit like if you believe justice is worth fighting for. The story of Judge Mahad exposed dark truths about systems vulnerable to exploitation, about criminals who infiltrate institutions, about the devastating consequences when trust is betrayed. $11.7 billion stolen, $3.04 billion recovered, $8.66 billion still missing, 350 arrests made, 237 suspects still free, 11 states impacted, hundreds of communities affected, thousands of victims suffering consequences. The mathematics of corruption were brutal. The investigation continued expanding. More arrests expected, more assets to be seized, more networks to dismantle. But the fight required sustained attention. Public pressure demanding accountability, political will maintaining enforcement priorities, community vigilance refusing to accept corruption as inevitable. That's where you come in. Your engagement amplifies this story. Every like helps algorithms spread the message. Every comment signals people care about accountability. Every share reaches someone who needs to know what happened. So hit like right now. Comment accountability below. Subscribe so you don't miss updates as the investigation continues. Share this video before the story disappears from public consciousness. Because Judge Mahad's corruption wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of systemic vulnerabilities. Criminals will always seek to exploit weaknesses. The question is whether citizens remain vigilant, whether institutions maintain integrity, whether accountability matters more than convenience. The answer determines whether what happened in Minneapolis remains an exception or becomes the rule. The choice is yours. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay demanding justice. This is only the beginning. More revelations coming, more arrests ahead, more truth to be exposed. But only if people like you refuse to look away. Hit like, comment below, subscribe now, share widely. The fight for accountability continues. And it needs you.